Hi.
Welcome to the podcast room.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell everyone your real name, because it's not Swa.
Well, Swa is my nickname. My name is Swanellie Paulin.
Okay.
So that's my full name. That's my government name.
That's beautiful. So tell us what you do, because I know what you do, but they don't know what you do.
Yes. So I am a financial advisor. My focus is helping families build multi-generational wealth, and really focusing on making money and bridging that gap. It's not just about today, but it's about generations to come.
Right. So it's kind of crazy because you are my financial planner.
Yes, I am. Yes,
Which has
I
been
am.
an awesome experience. I highly recommend her. And I think that one of the things that I love the most about you was that I just sat down and I was like, hey, I ain't got no coins, so what are we going to do? And you were like, you're good. You told me it was okay to start small, and you really put me at ease, and I love that, and I thank you so much for it, because now I'm on a plan that's really like setting me up for the future.
It's my pleasure.
For the babies I don't have, but
yes.
hey,
But
if they happen to come along, maybe I'll have a little something.
Absolutely, and you're starting early, and that's what matters.
Right, and I think my other thing that I love about you is that you actually break it down.
Yes.
So I don't do math. I'm a lawyer. I refuse to do math.
Right.
So you were like, okay, so A, and then 1 + 1 = 2. Are we good? And it was really helpful. So then I started to really understand, eventually I got to the point where I kind of understood what IRAs and Roth IRAs
Right. It can be a very, foreign language for most people in the States, and we don't even want to get into diaspora.
Right.
So, yeah, it can be challenging and intimidating. Having a financial conversation, it is intimidating.
Yeah,
and
it's
very
overwhelming.
personal.
Yeah,
yes,
and super personal. And
extremely
Haitians don't like
personal.
to do business with each other.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I was just like, no, I gotta go find a Haitian who gets why I'm this way.
Yes, and there are people who have anxiety.
Right.
When it comes to comes to money.
Yeah.
So over the past couple of years, I've kind of taken a different approach to having this conversation. It allows me to serve my clients better, as well as continuing that wealth building conversation. So you really have to go back and realize, what is this person's relationship with the money?
Right.
Did they come from money?
Right.
Did they inherit wealth from their parents? Because sometimes I think there's a misconception that if the person came from money, automatically they're a good money manager. Right? Sometimes when you have kids who inherit wealth, they just got it.
Right.
They
may not even know what to do with it.
Right. They have no idea what to do with it to make sure that it goes to the next generation. And sometimes when you're dealing with people who don't come from money, they've never had $1,000. They don't know what it's like to have $10,000 in their bank account, and so on and so forth. So they're holding on to this money instead of investing it and making it grow.
So it's, we're talking about generational wealth, and I think that it's something in our community as Haitians, Haitian Americans, that we don't really think about, right? Sometimes we amass all this money and we're like, it's just enough to send the kid to college or buy the house or buy the car, and then we don't think, what's going to happen if I pass away. And I'd love for you to talk about, maybe if how other communities do it differently from us and what we can learn.
Yes, absolutely. So in the States, if you work for a company, most companies offer you, a retirement plan.
Right.
Back then, it used to be pensions. Pensions don't exist anymore. So most companies offers what's called a 401k, right, or 403b, 457, based on the company that you're working with. It's just the norm. The funny thing is, some things are just the norm, right? The stock market is the norm. Making sure you have life insurance is the norm. Certain things are just the norm, but us and the minorities, African American, Hispanics, American, Haitians, Jamaicans, wherever you're from, we don't really understand that concept. One, and two, we don't really trust. Right. So at times, if you're looking in other communities, they understand when they're offered a position at any company, they can negotiate. They're bringing something to the table.
We're hesitant to do that, especially as Black women.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't negotiate our salaries. And what does that mean? By not negotiating your salaries, you are impacting generations to come. You're making less money. That means less money for you to save, less money to invest in the market, less money for you to take care of your family, of your children. And nowadays we have an aging community who keep growing. They're getting older, and they're not passing away in their 60s or 70s. No. They're passing away when they're over 100 years old. And at times we're placed in positions where we have to take care of them. So other communities, they've been taught, to really think about these things, and it has become the norm as breathing, right? Yeah. So in other communities, they think about these things, and at a young age, children are taught to think about it, to address it, to negotiate their salary, making sure that they have to put money in their 401k and not having to wait until they're 65 years old to do that. And that really propels them. It gives them an advantage over us, the minorities or the communities who, children of immigrants who we didn't grow up, our parents didn't grow up talking about IRAs and 401ks and the stock market or bonds and so on and so forth. We grew up thinking that we have to be involved in a sol. Right?
That is that's our 401k.
Yes. So we're gonna join that sol and with this person, that person.
Hopefully we get the last man or the second to last man.
Or the first one.
Or the first one.
Yeah, because we're building a house in Haiti. And we need
that's never gonna be finished.
That's right. And the sol, one-way ticket, and so on and so forth. There are other options. And our community, the American community, or Jewish, white Americans, they understand that Social Security is not a retirement plan. That can't be your plan. You cannot rely on the government to take care of you when you're 65-year-old.
I mean, it's not even really that much.
No, it isn't. Yeah. And it's based on, and when you're talking about immigrants, there's a lot of immigrants who are working in America who are not paying taxes. Yeah. Oh. Right?
Girl,
cash.
I know it.
You're like, based on the job that they're making, they're getting cash. Yeah. And what people don't think about is you will get to a point in your life where your brain might say you can work and the body will say, no, my friend, we're done. Yeah. It's over. Yeah. We're not doing this anymore. Yeah. So then you have to think about what are you going to do to take care of yourself. So a lot of things are done. They're doing a lot of things differently that we need to open our minds and accept and apply it, because it will allow us to not just build wealth for today, build wealth for tomorrow and for generations to come. So that's my motto and that's my focus.
So I know that because I had the experience with you, I'm sure that you give people the same spiel every time, right? You tell them the same stories, you give them the same examples that you gave me, and I got it real quickly because I was just like, girl, I believe in you. Like, whatever you say goes, take my coins. But then I'm sure that you speak to immigrant families, Haitian families, and they don't get it, right? And they're like, oh, okay, na parle de ça, mari lo, ma fo koné, and maybe they never come. So could you talk about maybe why you think you're not able to sometimes close those deals, whereas you have much success in a lot of these other communities? Because I know you do.
Right. So I think, there is the lack of education. Right. You don't know what you don't know. Right. So here I am meeting with someone who did not come from money, right? They have this job, they're making money, and they spend it, they give back. And I think I'll get back to, we have a lot of people who have other people on payroll. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Wait, that's fine.
So it's the mindset. So I've taken a different approach. It's really getting to know the person. It's funny, recently I was discussing with my husband that I really need to get a PhD in psychology, because that allows me to understand why this person sees money management that way. The way that they do, because and that's the approach I've been taking. It's really more having a conversation. How were you raised?
Right. Getting to know the person so that you can get at the base of what's causing.
What's your relationship with money? Yeah. I've had people just burst into tears. Yeah. I've had people say, listen, I have 5 businesses. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm thinking to myself, right. You have no idea the business that you have when you're ready to sell it, if it's still going to be a viable business. So as you are running this business, you should be thinking about your 65-year-old self.
Right.
And not be selfish to your 35-year-old self today.
Right.
Think about your 65-year-old self. So you really have to get down and really think about this person and their relationship with money, and how has that impacted them over the years. You have people who were raised by entrepreneurs and they understand, listen, I'm not always going to be in this business, so I need to figure out a way to diversify, not just, putting money in the bank where you're earning 0.0 nothing, right? You can invest it in the market. You can buy real estate. You can set up an education fund for your children. Make sure that you have enough life insurance and so on and so forth. So, yes, really getting to know these people, because at first, to me, I'm so eager and I'm so passionate because I want to help them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, I really can help you. And they're like, listen, I'm good. Or they don't decide to start today. They wait 10, another, I've been in this business for about a decade, but I've been in the financial world for 15 years. So I've had people who waited years and they're like, oh my gosh, so the biggest mistake I made was not starting with you at that particular time. So they've lost the opportunity. So it's really, I've taken a step back, really getting to know these people and see why they have such reluctance to move forward, and just really get to know them. And then if we have to do baby steps, we do that, right?
I think I am the baby stepper.
I think everyone, it's not
I think
easy.
At the beginning it's just a little bit,
Part
it's different.
From your money.
Because you just don't know where it's going, and then like here it is in this like world that you don't really understand.
Absolutely.
So you're like, but what's happening?
Right.
So, but I think that what you said is extremely important. You do have to start somewhere, and luckily for me, I found out about you early on, and I think I started just under 30 years old. So I'm hoping that,
it's perfect.
At 35, I could kick it. I'm just kidding. But
it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
That when I am ready to retire, it'll be great. I'm sure.
Right.
But let's talk about the people that you got on payroll, because remittances are 20% of Haiti's GDP. And I totally, I really advocate for people as an immigration attorney, I do advocate for people, to be in the States and being able to help support the GDP here. And I care about it, but then I never looked at it from the perspective of what harm that's doing to a person on an individual level. I do also see the not so great side of remittances, because then you have somebody who's just dependent on that versus being a little bit more, innovative with how they're going to use that money and how they're going to create wealth for themselves. So please do talk to us about what having people on payroll means and the effect it has.
So in the States, and I find this regardless of who the immigrant is, whether they're from Bangladesh, Haiti, Jamaica, Jamaica, it's just a common theme. They have somebody on payroll. So when I first meet with a potential client, I will ask them, so who do we have on payroll? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, who is this person? Mom, dad, cousin, uncle, this person who's claim that you're the godparent, that you're sending money to on a regular basis. And sometimes I see these people and they have no savings, But it's like, oh my gosh, there's an emergency. There's always an emergency. There will always be an emergency.
Textbooks that need to be purchased.
There will always be an emergency. But what about your emergencies? You have to think, if indeed you have these people on payroll, you are the business, you are the vessel, you're the one who's working to generate that fund. If you don't have your sugar honey iced tea together,
Y'all know what that spells.
If you don't have your stuff together, so how can you give? Right. So, and I understand for some clients, I've sat down with them and they're like, I don't need to be sending money to this person on such a regular basis. I'm like, listen, you send them X amount of money. Why don't you go over there and help them set up a business? Maybe when you go visit them, you don't even need to bring any cash. They can spot you because you're the investor. You understand what I'm saying?
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Or if indeed this is someone that you cannot, you must send them money let's give them a budget. Right. What is the budget for this person?
Right.
Is it $100? Is it $50? Whatever the case may be, let's give them that budget. Once it ends, once it's over for that particular month.
I mean, I'll say this. I kind of also have come to understand the guilt that they feel, right?
Yes.
You know, there's this guilt that I'm the sister who was able to make it out. Now I got to provide for everybody back home.
Yes.
Or the situation was so dire when I was there, and so I know what they're living. I can't let them continue to live that way.
Right.
And I totally understand that perspective, and I respect it. I think it's really great that you have that kind of heart. But I think we also need to start being creative about how we address that.
Right.
Yes, I totally get it. You don't want to leave your family in a bad situation, but instead of sending regularly, like you said, let's budget and let's create this business. And people have come to find out, I've had people tell me actually that, you know, Vanessa, would you believe that I've been sending money for books all this time and it was never buying books?
Girl, don't get me started.
And it's so unfortunate because here you have this person who's like, you know, immigrants aren't working always these great jobs, right? Because when you first get there, you don't know the language. You have a very limited amount of work that's accessible to you. And so they're working jobs where maybe they're only making $400 a month, sending $100 back home, having to pay excessive rent for a little bed in a house, in a room in a house, you know, to sleep in. You're buying your own food, all of that stuff. I kind of see them pretty much put themselves into debt for somebody back home when they don't have anything here. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you say it, but you also get that they feel. And so I could see where that's tough, but I also feel like it's something people need to know as children, right? We need to really put it in their heads as kids, like, this is how you save money. Because I know that when I was a kid, maybe around 4th or 5th grade, we had a bank actually come to my school and give us like savings accounts. Right. And we had checkbooks. And I remember graduating from, not graduating, well, getting promoted from like 8th grade. And so from 4th or 5th grade to 8th grade, like I had amassed, you know, some money. And I was just like, I'm rich. Right. Oh my God, I am so rich. Because at the time, like whatever, those 25 cents a day or a week or whatever it was that I was depositing, like kind of it stacked up. And then whenever I had money, I was excited to go put money in the bank. Right. You know, so I think that we need to start teaching our kids young. So you who just got married.
That's my passion.
You just got married.
Yes.
In a beautiful wedding. I died. I was in these pictures on Facebook like, what? I've never seen this. This is a dream. So maybe gonna start a family soon. Yes. What's that gonna look like in terms of financial well-being?
I absolutely love educating children. So let's go back to talk about the partnership, right? When you were getting married. I think the money conversation, you need to have it right up front. Okay. For some people it's uncomfortable. I mean, it's awkward to be like, what you got in the bank? What's your financial statements look like? That's crazy. You know, I guess me as a financial advisor, it was one of our first conversations. Okay. Like, here's where I stand, here's where I am, and where do you stand? Right.
My aunt had told me once, you have to ask him for his financial statements. And I was like,
you do.
I was like, Auntie.
And you have to have that conversation. And at times, I've met women who are like, well, my husband handles everything. And I said, that's great. My darling, if that man passes away or something happened, right? What you gonna do? Yeah. What are you gonna do? Right. So you want to be part of that conversation. So if you are, in a relationship as a couple and you're thinking about moving in that direction, it could be, not being married or we're living together, we're sharing rent. There's got to be some conversation about finances. Not just how we're going to pay the rent, but are we going to be building some wealth together here? Right. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be working and I'm the one who's putting money in the 401k.
Right. And you're just out here balling. Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Right. What's going on? Right. So you need to have that conversation, but most importantly, how do we grow our money? Right. You work to make that money. The money needs to be working over time. Right? For some people, it's in a business. For some people, it's in the market. Some people, it's through lending. Whatever the case may be, the cash needs to be doing something. Right. So I would advise families, and some people that think that they're experts. Listen, when something's wrong with me, I go to the doctor.
Right.
I have no problem showing up, saying, listen. And when I show up, I have a book and I take notes. I do because I like to understand what the doctor is saying.
Right.
You know, and I tell them, I'm not trying to undermine you or anything, but I know that you're an expert. I just like to understand and write things down. The same thing. It's okay to go see a financial professional. You should do that.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been meaning to come actually see you, so I'm so glad you're here because, girl, I got questions.
It's okay to go see a financial professional. You should have a financial professional. Yes. You have a doctor. You need a financial professional, right? So my clients, the minute they make that phone call to the doctor, I'm the next person in line because we need to talk about that money for whatever their needs are. So yes, as a couple, go see a financial professional, right? If you have to tell them, listen, I've had people walk in there like, Swanellie, we're being very, very vulnerable right now. Like, this is us. You're about to see us naked. Yeah. And I'm like, girl, I've seen it all.
Right.
So it's, you know what I mean? They're really open. Open yourself up. Start with the person. Say, hey, here's our situation. Here's where we want to be.
Right. What can we do? What should we do?
Right. So definitely, as a couple, go see a financial professional and have that conversation. Most importantly, one thing that I notice a lot in the Haitian community, people talk about life insurance. I've heard people go online and talk on radio shows and so on, but we're not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Majority of the wealth that is acquired, built, passed on, in the States or through life insurance.
Girl, I heard that the other day. This is what I learned the other day, that there are communities where the younger person is taking a life insurance policy out on the elders of the community, of the family or whatever. Yes. They're paying those premiums every month. And then when that person passes, not only does it cover the funeral costs or whatever, but that is how they've like now come into some money.
Right.
And we don't do that. And you know, it's always this thing about I've heard it
all. I've heard it all. And it is so selfish. When you really think about our, grandparents, we're from Botabima.
Yes, girl.
So when you think about our great grandparents, they probably left our parents beef, cabrit, whatever the case may be, en chambre, café, and so on. That was their way of building wealth.
Right.
Just imagine if they thought, wait a minute, in addition to that, there's
take a policy out.
Yeah. When I passed away, I can leave some money for my 8 kids. Yeah. They would do it.
My grandma passed away without even telling them where my uncles and my father, where the land was. Yep. So like they know where their land in other places are, but there's like one plot of land like in the city that they don't know about. Right. And she was like, I'll tell you before I die.
And then she passes away.
Well, then homegirl passes away and nobody ever knew.
No one knows.
Because it was unexpected, and on top of that, then you have the issue of like no will. And now, obviously, the banks are just going to be like, oh, well, sucks for you, sucks to suck.
Right.
So it's really crazy how we have such a fear of death, and that causes us to not actually plan. Yeah.
Not plan. So not planning it's hurting us. Right. As a community, the Haitian community has been in the States long enough where certain conversations we should be able to have. Yes. And we shouldn't be thinking about, I know there are some people they're thinking about today because they're trying to make ends meet.
Right.
But I know a lot of people who work at Publix and they've been bagging for years, and they have a good amount of money in that Publix stocks.
Talk about
Don't go to sleep on these people, trust me, believe me.
Oh yeah.
So again, lack of understanding. Someone like that who's working at Publix, they have all this wealth, their retirement 401k, and I'm just using Publix as an example. You have other places as well.
Because we also have a little beef with Publix.
So they have 401ks and so on and so forth. And for these people, when they're retired, they're like, okay, now that I've retired, they take this money out. They pay a 20% penalty. Again, lack of knowledge, right?
So that's money lost. Yeah.
gone. They're never going to get it back, right? They could have rolled it over. So again, knowledge, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Sit down and talk to somebody. Make sure that you can mesh well. This is somebody that I can trust. This is somebody that I like. This is somebody that I can call and ask a question and not feel like they're going to make me feel stupid. Right? So, and then be vulnerable. Build that generational wealth. Don't just think about today. Think about tomorrow and for the generations to come. Let me talk about the kids. Now, I love talking to children about money. It gets me so excited. So, reason why I started working in the States at a very young age because I've always wanted financial independence. So since the age of 13, I kept on asking my dad, I'm like, Papi, I need you to take me somewhere so I can get a job. And he would entertain me by taking me around McDonald's, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're too young. And I'm like, okay. And then so I think I got my first job at the age of 14, which isn't fully legal, but I was close to 15. And I started working in the kitchen and dietary. I was so excited. My shift would start at 6 o'clock. I would get there by 5:15. Like, so
that was me at Party City. Now you can't get me to get to work on time. If my boss is watching, my bad. I really try, but
so I started at a really young age because I wanted financial freedom. I wanted to make my own money. So I got my little job. I started working. And then my dad was so supportive of that, And I remember my very first check was $36.12.
Money.
Yes.
Money.
So I'm like, I'm rich. Right? I'm rich. So my dad took the check and he didn't give me $36. He said, I'm going to keep it for you. And I got to pay another check. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to keep it for you. So one day I'm like, Papi, I don't understand. I'm making money. No money coming this way. So I wrote an IOU, right? And I'm like, I need you to sign right here. Swanellie Paulin, Swanellie. And Charlie's like, okay, pas un problème. He signed it. So one day he took me and my sister Valerie, shout out, I love you, to the bank, to Great Western Bank at the time, which is now Chase, and we opened a savings account. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now that I have a savings account, I only want it to go up. So at the time, my dad he's always been so progressive and open to new ideas. Someone talked to him about investing, right? He had a broker at Bank of America, I think at the time, but someone had told him about investing another way. So he had the person come to the house. The person did his whole life insurance planning, and the guy told him, hey, listen, you should start investing in some mutual funds. And then he's like, oh, can my daughter do it? And the person's like, yeah. So my dad, the best that he could, told me, hey, you can invest $25 a month. I'm like, all right. Right here, $25. Go ahead and sign right here. That $25 will be taken out of the savings account that I'm trying to grow. So we did the investment for years, right? I forgot about it. For years, money's been taken out months after months after months. It wasn't until I was in college, I called my dad. I said, Papi, listen, what's up with that money? It's been like 20. He's like, I really forgot about it because I was a child at the time. And when you're a college student, you broke.
All the time.
You ain't got 2 pennies to rub together,
all
right?
All the time.
So when I
sick
called,
of ramen noodles.
Right. And I needed I'm like, listen, I need me some books. And when we called together, because I was a minor when it was originally open, there was a couple of $1,000s in that account, right? That was invested for years. So that's how I was introduced to investing. And I don't even think my dad really understood how that was going to impact my life. So if you have children and people have throw these lavish birthday parties, I'm not saying for you not to do that. My sister did that for my niece who turned 1 year old last year. I love my Bri.
Shout out to my cousins in Gala events.
Yes.
Who throw beautiful parties.
Yes. So she threw this party for Bri, and I always say, in addition to throwing that party, let these people know they can write a check instead of buying you that that gift that the kid is not going to use for $20, $30, $40.
They pay off
Write
the
a check, right? And buy that kid a Disney stock.
Wow.
Buy that kid.
That's amazing.
You understand? Yes. Buy that kid a stock. Imagine you buy it today, and then in 18 years, it will change their lives. It's true. Volatility exists when it comes to the market, right? But if you're talking about a child who has 10, 15, 18, 20 years, I promise you, and as financial advisors, we're not supposed to guarantee anything because we can't control the market. But I can guarantee you this child will have more than what you originally invested for them. So I am really big on that. Support these kids, invest on their behalf, and tell them, teach them about money.
This is why we're doing this.
This is why we're doing this, and this is how it's going to impact your life. And yes, let's build this generational wealth. It's not just today. It's for generations to come.
Oh, this was amazing. And we should do this more often.
We should.
Yes. Thank you so much for stopping by the podcast room.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.